A very good morning to you and welcome to my thought for the day. Today I thought we'd have a look at Luke chapter 4, 41 to 51. It's the story of the visit to Jerusalem by Mary, Joseph and Jesus when he was 12 years old. They journeyed from Nazareth to Jerusalem, and it was a 3 days journey on foot, of course. They were not a rich family. And they'd attended the Passover, and a day's journey back, they realized that Jesus wasn't with them. And they became anxious and frantic and went back to Jerusalem looking for him, and found him in the temple, asking questions and talking with the leaders and teachers in the temple. And there's this exchange when they ask him, Mary asks him, why did you worry us so much? We hadn't any idea where you were. And he said, didn't you know I should be in my father's house? Or some translations say, about my father's business. And they didn't understand what he said to them. And I was thinking about Jesus. Jesus is our example. Jesus is our King. Jesus is the one who told his disciples to follow him, to emulate him, to be like him, to copy him, really, to do things the way he wanted them done. And he is our King today. And I am sure that during his upbringing in the home in Nazareth, his parents will at times have sat down with him and told him the things that happened when he was announced to Mary that she was going to have a child, and when Joseph will have told him about the dreams that he had, and they will have spoken to him about the amazing events around his birth and his early years, all of which are recorded by Luke for us, and by Matthew for the dreams for Joseph. And I was thinking about this example of bringing a child up. Our society has this idea that children cannot be taught one religion alone, that when they're at school they have to be taught everything, and they make a decision when they're old enough to make a decision. And that's not borne out by Scripture, I'm afraid. Scripture makes it quite clear that the responsibility for teaching children rests with the parents, not with the school. Children didn't particularly go to school in biblical times. And to rely on our education system to rightly teach our children is something we shouldn't do, because they have this idea that all religions are equal and probably not worth a great deal anyway, and we teach them in equal measure, and most of the people who teach them do not follow any of them, and most of them who teach about Christianity do not teach biblical Christianity. They teach traditional churchified Christianity, if I can call it that. They will teach about, that when you're a Christian you always observe Lent, you do this, you fast, they might even include you eat fish on Fridays, and they have various views that are put forward for what Christianity really is. It is our duty as parents and grandparents and great-grandparents perhaps to talk to children about Jesus, to live our Christian life in front of our children, to teach them to pray at night and in the morning, to read the Scriptures with them, because children are able to come to faith, and we should pray for them. We should teach them. The Christian faith, the base, the core message of the faith is so simple and straightforward and easy to understand that a child can grasp it. It's not meant to be complicated and difficult, and we can ground our children in so much truth. Jesus, at the age of 12, knew who he was. He knew his origins. He knew And he was already in relationship with God the Father at the age of 12. And my own experience, I came to faith at 14, but I was attending church from a small child, and I knew the scriptures quite well. It was only the aspect of personal commitment that I didn't understand. And largely that was due to the fact that neither of my parents were committed Christians, so that in my home there was no Christian teaching and leadership. It was a good moral code in lots of ways, but there was not a Christian grounding in my home. So I came to faith, personal faith, when I was 14. But my children grew up in a home where I and their father, my first husband, went to church, and I taught them to pray. I prayed with them, and my eldest came to faith at the age of 6, and my younger came to faith at the age of 4. And they are living their faith out today, and they're in their 40s. Gosh. So we need to understand that it is perfectly possible for children to know God and to have a real, live, personal faith. Think of Samuel in the Old Testament. Think of David. These were young people. Think of Jeremiah, God speaking to him and saying, I called you in the womb. John the Baptist, known to God, chosen from the womb. Samson, chosen from the womb. But Samuel is the one that springs most to mind. You know, as a boy in the temple, he learned to recognize the voice of God quite early on, because God had a call on his life. And we should teach our children. We should not be afraid to teach our children the truth, if only by telling them what happened to us. And I'm sure that's what Mary and Joseph did with Jesus. They told him what had happened when he was born. And he would have interacted with John the Baptist, who was his cousin, and heard about John the Baptist's miraculous annunciation as well, and his birth. So he was taught from a very young age, and he knew who he was, and he was already committed to the Father at the age of 12. We should take this very seriously, you know. The responsibility for our children and grandchildren rests with us. We need to grasp the nettle and speak to our children clearly about our faith. Maybe you've come to faith much later on, and you didn't raise your children in the Christian faith because you weren't born again, but now you are. Well, take an opportunity, make an opportunity to tell your children where you stand and what it means, what Jesus means to you. They will have seen the difference in you. They will have seen the change. Grasp an opportunity to explain it to them, because you may be the only Bible that your children and grandchildren ever read until they come to faith and read the real one. That's my thought for the day. We have a harvest field ready for the reaping in the children and grandchildren that God has given to us. Let's take those opportunities. Have a great day. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow.